You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 22. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there, and welcome to the Balanced Educator Podcast. If you are brand new to this show, welcome. It is so awesome to have you here. And if you listen every Monday or every week when you get to it, thank you so much for coming back every week. It is so great to connect with you in this fun podcast way. It is just so nourishing for Josiane and I to be able to chat with you guys every week and share some of the topics that we're really passionate about. So thank you for giving us the space to do that. I also want to take the chance to thank you guys so much for leaving us reviews on iTunes. The reviews that you leave really make it a lot easier for other educators and parents and anyone that is looking for this message, looking for ways to live a more balanced and mindful life to find us. So I just want to take a second to thank Nora so much for her awesome review. She said, "I love this podcast. This is truly a wonderful podcast. Josiane and Kaylee are so genuine, passionate, and knowledgeable about their content and are really on a mission to get everyone to start living their best life. They do a wonderful job at breaking down mindfulness and how to bring it into your life. Great job, ladies." Thank you so much, Nora, and thank you to everyone that's leaving reviews. We currently only have 5-star reviews, so you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your great feedback. Now, this week's episode is an awesome one. It is so jam-packed with value. I am continuing the interview that we started last week with Keith Macpherson. Now, if you haven't already listened to it, episode 21, I invite you to go listen to that one first, and then you can binge listen to awesome episodes in a row. But if you've already listened to it, you're probably excited for this week. So Keith is a mindfulness trainer, a life coach, and the author of the new book, Making Sense of Mindfulness. Through his work in the field of mindfulness, Keith has created a 5-principle framework that he's going to share today to assist you guys in comprehending the buzzword mindfulness and integrate this practice into your daily lives. Aside from his work in mindfulness, Keith is also known as a professional musician and an inspiring speaker. Now let's go ahead and jump into part 2 of this awesome interview with Keith Macpherson, where he is going to break down the 5 principles from his book, Making Sense of Mindfulness.
Before the 5 principles, one thing that's important to know is the foundation of mindfulness, which is really all things are connected. There's a phrase in Hawaii, ika pono mea, which means everything is happening perfectly on time.
Oh,
and
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it really is trusting that place that, life loves us. And when we realize that the present moment, everything's connected, everything that we need is here for us. We just have to tune in and realize that. So moving into these principles briefly, principle 1 is all about everything begins as an inner dream. This is the concept that literally the beginning of anything, as you look around in your environment, it all originates in our inner dream place of imagination. Whether you're sleeping at night or you're daydreaming, anytime you go into that place of imagination, right? If you break that down, imagine, image in, the images that we have in our mind, that's really where things begin. This is the creative process. So in a mindfulness practice, it's realizing, what are my thoughts? Like, what am I thinking about in that inner imaginative place? Are my thoughts building me up, or are my thoughts beating me up? And just check it out. We think over 60,000 thoughts a day. A lot of these thoughts are very much chronic, repetitive thoughts. And how many of those are thoughts that are bringing you down? And so the idea here is literally, as we go in and create in that inner dream place, what we're thinking about eventually shows up in the outside world around us. We create and literally create from the inside out what's going to happen around us. So, if you're struggling in a relationship, at some point, you may have gone into that inner dream place and realized maybe I'm not worthy of the right partner. I don't deserve somebody that treats me well. And it might have been very unconscious. But at one point there was a thought in there that I'm not good enough or I'm not deserving. And so it showed up. But the opposite is true too. It's like this place of dreaming your best dream. So that's principle 1.
So good.
In a nutshell.
And we talk a lot about that, about how your thoughts create your emotions. And when we can step back and notice what our thoughts are, we can notice what we're creating in the world for ourselves, what perception we're creating. So
absolutely.
Love that.
So dream your best dream. Really program your thinking. Put reminders up around you that literally remind you about what you want to be thinking about. Don't listen to the news before you go to bed. That the news stories are so negative in nature. If you start thinking about all the things that aren't working in the world before you go to bed, that's going to marinate in your mind for like 8 hours.
And then you're going to create more of that.
And
right?
It'll just create more of it.
What you observe and what you really notice and focus on, you create more of that perception. Your brain is looking for more of that.
Absolutely. So, it starts by just being very aware of what am I thinking about. Principle 2, this idea of principle 2, it's something that I call expose the saboteur. And the concept of saboteur, I first heard it coined by Carl Jung, like way, way back. And this idea of saboteur, it's been said that we all have an aspect of our consciousness that literally comes up and is a form of self-sabotage. It's the part of us that, whether it's a voice in your head or a feeling in your body that makes you feel limited, that makes you feel compressed, like I can't or I shouldn't, guilt feelings, fear-based thinking. When I ask people in workshops, what gets in the way for you? Some of the top answers are, I'm scared that I'm not going to have enough money and I'm not going to have enough time. These are like two of the biggest dream busters in the world.
Yeah. The
thought, I'm not going to have enough time, I'm not going to have enough money. And I've correlated this with this concept of saboteur. Literally, this part of us, it's a meme. It's a mental meme that comes up and says you can't or you shouldn't or you should. And so to me, exposing that as opposed to letting it run our story is a major piece. Literally exposing the saboteur, going, what does this voice telling me I can't look like? Literally drawing a picture of it, actually. I drew mine. It looks like a little stick character, and it comes up in my head. And even right now, as we're having this podcast, I have this little stick character in my head, and it's telling me, oh, you shouldn't have said it that way. Or, Kaylee's looking at you going, Kay, you're talking too much. That's my saboteur.
It's your saboteur, because I'm not thinking that. I'm like, keep talking. This is so interesting.
My saboteur right now, if you want to, is even saying like the people listening to this podcast, you better say the right things because you somehow need to earn their approval. Like they need to like you. Because if they don't like you, somehow my saboteur tells me I'm a failure. So it's really this practice of getting clear on what are those pieces that come up that are busting up my dreams of how I want it to be. So that's step 2 in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay.
So good.
Step 3. It's based on this concept of open your mind. This was inspired by one of my mentors and teachers, Dr. Wayne Dyer. Wayne used to have quotes in his talks. One of my favorite was from Talopa. He used to say, have a mind that's open to everything and attached to nothing. And I put that up on my wall at home, and it changed my life. This idea of opening our mind. I write about it in the book, but there's an experiment done with fleas, and a flea can jump 100 times its height. If you put a flea in a jar, it'll jump right out. I mean, this is like a human jump into the top of a skyscraper. It's amazing they can jump 100 times their height. But if you put a flea in the jar, it'll jump right out. If you put a lid on the jar in this experiment, the flea will jump and hit the bottom of the lid, and over time it learns that, oh, that's not so enjoyable. The interesting thing is if you take the lid off the jar, once the flea's been in there, it only jumps so high as to not jump out of the jar anymore because it doesn't want to it thinks the lid's still there.
Yeah.
And for the rest of its life, it only jumps that high that it doesn't jump out of the jar. And for so many of us, we get stuck in these patterns of thinking that there's no more to life than just this literally hamster wheel that I'm living in. Open your mind. The concept of opening your mind invites us to realize that when we look up above us in that jar that we've been living in and we go, wow, what's out there? It's actually unlimited possibility. The possibilities are unlimited when we open our mind to it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the practices in Principle 3, and there's a lot of concrete examples in the book, are ways for us to literally open our mind to new ways of being, to create new opportunities. And this doesn't have to be add-on to your to-do list. These are actual things that just, even the way you're thinking about how you're coming at a conversation can open your mind. So it's, that's Principle 3. There's so much to be said in these.
I know. I feel like we could have a whole podcast episode just on each of these principles.
We could.
But I really encourage anyone listening to get the book because it goes into detail and gives really actionable practices that you can do in your own life, which is amazing and why I loved it so much.
Thank you.
So Principle 4.
Principle 4 is called Be Mindfully Aware. And it'll be tricky to get into this in deep detail right now, but just to give you an essence of it, this principle is literally about reconnecting our mind and our body so that our, what I call the higher self in this framework can flow through. So it's literally getting the full, whole part of us in alignment. Like I was saying earlier in the podcast, and we were talking about, most of us live only in one aspect, which is our conscious thinking, overthinking mind. Mm-hmm. But you start realizing in Mindfully Aware that we have a body mind and an intuition, and we have a higher self, which is connected to all creativity and everything around us. And we only get access to that creative part when we allow our conscious mind to start listening to our body mind. And then that spirit, so to speak, can flow through. So it's really, this principle is all about learning how to get ourselves into balance and alignment, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
Yeah,
is really
I loved
the essence.
some of the practices that were concrete. That's the breathing exercise was in there, right?
The Ha breathing?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I tried that and I loved it.
Oh, cool. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. And once we get our body and our mind in alignment and we kind of open ourselves up, that's when the creativity flows. And that's when we do our best work. And that's when we're, the best friends and family members, and we're just the best version of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So I loved that there was, again, the concrete actionable things that, give us the exact step-by-step to be able to try it out for ourselves and see if that is the practice we want to keep doing. And, if it feels good, keep going. If it's not for you, leave it behind. But I really liked what you brought up. So
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a bit of Principle 4 as well. And the fifth principle is something that I call I am. And these are two of the most powerful words in our language and our thinking. If you think about it, I am is one of the most honest, but neutral statements we have, right? I am, like you are. There's no denying it. And any version of that, the chair is, this podcast is, the tree is, anything you look around at just simply is. But how we fill in the blank at the end of an I am statement really determines how things are going to appear. So for example, let's just take money, which is a big one. Money just is. But if I fill in the blank in my thinking and I choose to go, money is hard to come by, right? All of a sudden, I'm setting myself up for a life of struggling around attracting money into my life. So to become aware of how am I looking at things? What's my perspective? Another Wayne Dyer quote, he would say, when I change the way I look at things, the things I look at change. And it's so true. There's so many different ways to look at something. Money doesn't have to be scarcity. Money can be abundance. The relationship I'm in, the most challenging coworker at work, maybe they're one of my best teachers as opposed to, oh, this person's just so annoying, right? Because they just are. So we actually have the freedom to start thinking about people and everything around us in the way that we want to. We get to choose how we want to look at things. So I am is really all about learning how to choose the perspective that's going to serve us and everyone else the best. There was a part in the book that really, I think it's my favorite part of this book, and it was in this fifth principle. And I happened to be out at the cabin with my friend, Mark, who we've been friends forever. And I was over listening him on FaceTime with his daughter. They were having a conversation, and his teenage daughter was complaining about how she just felt so ugly, and she was breaking out with pimples, and she just did not feel good. And I was listening to her, and I could just hear her self-sabotage, her saboteur coming up. And my heart was breaking. I was like, this is where this all starts, is just in our choice to believe without even knowing it that I'm not good enough. So I was just so moved in that moment. And after the phone call, I went to the other cabin on the property and started writing on this book, and I ended up writing a letter to her I am, so to speak, her higher self. And it was just a love letter to her and to all of us, just truly reframing, you know. And this is a practice that goes way back to the 1920s. There was some amazing work done by Florence Shinn, who talked about writing the highest self part of somebody when you want to help them change. So it's like literally writing to like their angel, so to speak. And it's so amazing when we write to that connected energy of somebody, how they shift. Anyway, I could go on about that, but
I was just going to say too, and also if we try to see people from that place too, if we can look at someone and see their highest self, we begin to perceive them in that way, and they begin to act in that way.
That's right.
And I found that very helpful to me as a teacher in the classroom. You know, the kids that are taking a lot of our energy, the kids that seem to be the most difficult, often are just really searching for love. And if we can look at them not as someone that's trying to bother us, but someone that is in need of more love, then we look at them totally differently and we interact with them differently, and they begin to act differently towards us because we are seeing them the way that they are seeking to be seen. They just don't know yet how to seek that out in a better way, right?
Absolutely.
They're looking for attention maybe in ways that are upsetting to us, but they, you know, we can see it from that higher self way. And
absolutely.
It's a beautiful, beautiful way to shift the interaction.
One of the best ways to practice this, as you're talking, it's just reminding me, is mirror work, something I call mirror work. And, you know, for most of us, when we look in a mirror at ourselves, what's our I am thought? Most of us go, oh, I am having a bad hair day. Or we look at ourselves in the mirror and we go, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get to the gym. I am literally getting overweight, or I got a pimple breaking out. So it's to me, it's like, standing in front of that mirror is one of the best tools we have available, because to see yourself in that mirror and to change the thinking, you know, your saboteur is going to come up in your mind and say you're not good enough. So to know that's going to happen, or this is cheesy, that guy on the podcast telling me I should do this. But to actually get past that layer and to see yourself and to just think or say like, you're doing a good job today. Or, you know, hey, handsome, or hey, cutie, or to even go deeper to a place of like, you know, I love you, or I want to love you. And to really feel that. This is where, honestly, this compassionate practice starts, because it's very hard to accept ourselves for a lot of us, but then to transform that, it begins by doing that inner work.
Yeah.
You know, if I had an orange in front of you and I were to squeeze the orange, what would come out right now? It wouldn't be grapefruit juice, it'd be orange juice, right? If I were to squeeze any of you listening right now on an emotional level, what beliefs are sitting in there? You know, is the juice in there like, I'm not good enough, I need to be better, I need to do more, be more, get more, or, you know, like, and how did that get in there if that is there? And a lot of times it was from our thinking. It was from our I am statements in our mind saying, I need to do more. I'm not good enough. And so to reprogram it, to go in there and to reprogram it in front of a mirror, you know, to change it to how you want it to be. That's one of the best practices we have available. So start loving on ourselves.
I am so grateful that you taught me that in one of our coaching sessions, and you gave me the homework to, you know, look at myself in the mirror and just shine love on myself. And I realized that I had never actually looked at myself in the mirror in my life.
Wow.
I would look at my eyes and put makeup on my eyelashes, and I would look at my cheeks and put blush on my cheeks, and I would look at parts of myself, but I had never looked at myself in the mirror and seen myself. And that was such a moving thing for me. And I began to tell myself, like, you look beautiful. And I swear to you, in the second that I told myself, you look beautiful, I felt like I looked beautiful. And I swear my face changed. And I was like, I don't actually need to wear makeup today. So telling myself I was beautiful and then telling myself I loved myself, not only did it change the way I looked at myself, but it changed the way I presented myself. I then began walking with more love for myself, confidence in myself, and belief that I was beautiful. And the funny thing is I started getting that back from people. Like all of a sudden, my husband just kept telling me I was beautiful. And I was like, where's this coming from? I mean, he's a very kind person, very, very loving, but the words like you are beautiful weren't words that he would normally use. And like in his affection. And I was like, this is really an interesting experiment. Because I'm starting to say it to myself, and now all of a sudden it's being bounced back at me. It was so interesting. So I encourage anyone to listening, just try it. Look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself the things you want to hear.
All things are connected.
Yes, they really are. They really are.
Yeah.
Well, this was an amazing conversation, and so many goodies and tidbits and takeaways in here. I really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And to our listeners, please check Keith out. He has really inspiring quotes that he posts on Instagram. How can they find you on Instagram?
Yeah. Well, I'm at Keith M. Mac. And every day I put up a positive quote in the morning to get the day started and dream your best dream. So definitely that. And
I love it. So thank you again so much for being here. And hopefully we can get you back on another time. Maybe we can go dive a little bit deeper into each of these principles.
I would love it. Thank you so much for having me on. And just once again, I just really want to honor the work you guys are doing in the community. And everyone listening, just go out there and literally dream your best dream right now. Now is the moment of power.
Wow, how valuable was all that insight that Keith shared with us. You guys, you have to check out his book. It is so awesome and so digestible. It's a nice small book that you can get through, you can read slowly, you can take your time with it and really integrate these principles that he's talking about in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming. It feels super accessible. Now, Keith is so incredibly generous and awesome. We would be promoting his book no matter what, obviously, because we found value in it. So whenever we find value in things, we want to share it with you guys. But he has offered to make us an affiliate, which is so cool. So when you go to our website, www.educalm.com, that's educalme.com/Keith, if you order Keith's book, Making Sense of Mindfulness, from our website, we're actually going to get a portion of the proceeds. So we get a little commission off of that, which is so exciting because then we can use that to help us fund this show, to help us sponsor this podcast that we bring to you guys lovingly every single week. So how cool is that? You guys get value from a great book, and at no extra cost, you will be helping to provide us with value, and then in return, yourself with even more value because it helps us to pay for this podcast. So thank you, Keith. That was such a generous offer of you, and we are really grateful. Now, guys, here is your exit ticket for this episode. We want to know what you gained, what value you got, what you learned from this episode. So screenshot you listening to our episode and put it up on your stories on Instagram and tag us at Educalme, EDUCALME. We absolutely love it when you guys do this because when we do podcasts, we don't necessarily see you guys on the other side and know who it is that we're connecting with. So when you connect with us on Instagram, it's awesome because we can create a bit more of a personal connection with you and know who our audience is. So lots of fun for us. Now, what are we up to over at Educalme? Josiane and I are working on some big, exciting projects that we have had in mind all year long, and now is the time. So we love sharing with you guys how to reduce overwhelm, how to enjoy your best life, how to shift your mindset so that you can enjoy life more. And we are educators. We know how stressful and overwhelming the school year can be. So if you are in Canada or the States, you're probably just wrapping up your school year. This might be your last week. For those in Manitoba, this is your last week before summer break. So now that you're done, we have something coming up in the summer for you. That's super exciting. We are going to be hosting a free live online workshop where we are going to be teaching you guys an amazing strategy for reducing overwhelm and feeling more balanced even during the school year. So now that things are calming down, you're going to have a little bit more time on your plate. It's the perfect time for you to learn some concrete strategies now while things are, a little bit smoother. And then you're going to have these strategies to practice over the summer and to take with you into your classroom next year so that you can create your best year ever. Now, in addition to that, we are also working on a course that we're going to be offering in August. Now, we will be giving you guys more information on the weeks to come for how you can sign up for these two offerings and exactly when the dates will be. But keep track on Instagram because we will always share things there. We'll talk about it more on the podcast next week to give you more details. And best yet, if you are on our mailing list, you will be the first to know all this important information, and you will be the first to be able to sign up and register for these offerings. So to sign up for our mailing list, go to educalm.com/subscribe. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us this week. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And for those of you that are finishing up their last week of the school year, congratulations and enjoy a wonderful summer.